Robin and Alex are gone.
Because we killed them.
Today is March 19th, 2025. The time's currently 7:11 p.m.
Whoa, like the place?
We already did the sponsorship bit twice.
Fuck.
My god. She's bappy.
She's sad because Robin is gone.
Anyway, I have I'm going to force you all to consume Aniara.
Are you going to just read Aniara?
Yes, I'm going to read Aniara out loud. I'm not going to read the whole thing,
I would hope. I would.
but I'm going to read the whole thing over multiple videos. Why are you why don't you like the why are you hate me?
Um.
Why you got a problem with this? This is an incredibly important piece of sci-fi literature that no one talks about. It's an epic poem. That's sick as hell. This is Aniara, a review of A Man in Time and Space, which is the translation that's more accurate to the text, but less poetically accurate. Um, there will be one canto where I'll switch over because in this one it is marked as untranslatable, which it wasn't in the second one, which is really amusing. My first remembered meeting with my Doris shines with a light stronger than light itself, and yet with a simplicity in meeting that all may have in any transit hall, where the forced emigrants are herded off to their fell gangways for the planet Mars, and to the tundras. Earth must have a rest for all her poisons, launch her refugees out into space, and keep her quarantine. She writes out the embarkation cards, her five small fingernails gleaming like dim lamps in the hall's half-light, and says, "Please sign your name just here where the light of my blondness falls on this card, which you must keep. In case any trouble should occur to jolt both space and time, you must come back and write your impressions of it here in this space. Look, set apart for that. Now you must state precisely what particular part of Mars you want to reach. As the form states, you may each take a pot of non-infected soil with you, and I'll seal up also at least 3 cubic feet of earth for every passenger on board." She looks at me with the disdain beauty so easily assumes. On seeing whichever way she looks the clumsy movements of the folk thronging the stairs to the starting points, and watches the ever-increasing crowds, huddling like sheep through the exit there bound helplessly for other worlds. The sheer absurdity of living stands out so appallingly then for us who've tried year after year ugh, to find some chink through which a ray of hope might reach this hideous hall where now these flocks of numbered emigrants start up whenever the siren blows. 2. Goldonda Aniara Goldonda Aniara's closed. The usual signal goes to quit. Our gravitational field, and now her gyrospinner starts to tow her up towards the zenith's light, where powerful magnetrines annul Earth's pull. Soon zero signals given. The spaceship's free, and weightless floats upwards like a bubble or a cork, vibrationless and undisturbed away from Earth, a normal start. A simple gyromatic job with no sense of adventure now. Who could foresee that just this flight, all in the day's work as it seemed, was singled out to be unique and doomed to bear us all away from Earth and Sun, Venus and Mars, and life's entire environment? 3. A swerve to avoid the asteroid Hondo, claimed as discovered thus, jerked us off route. So we missed Mars, bypassed its orbit, and avoiding the field of Jupiter, set course on the field Ice 12 in Magdalena's outer ring. But meeting then with a dense swarm of Leonids fell back even more to Eco 9, till in the field of Sar 16 we needs gave up our efforts to turn round, since we just on the point of turning saw a ring of boulders which gave us the echographic picture of a torus, whose empty center now we wildly sought, and finally found, but only at so steep a tilt the intersection brought disaster to our Saba aggregate, peppered by a great hail of Leonids and meteors. So when the ring of boulders left focus and space was clear again, we'd passed the point of no return, our course pointing to Lyra now, and no change of direction could be thought of it. We lay in dead space. Luckily our machinery still worked all right, our central heating and lighting both unharmed, although some of the instruments have been destroyed. While others were repairable perhaps, our unhappy fate was certain now. Our only hope the Mima would keep going to whatever end. Ugh. 4. Thus it was Thus it was when the solar system closed its gateway of purest crystal and cut off the spaceship Aniara from all the associations and promises of the sun. So at the mercy of impassive space we sent our hailing signal, Aniara, through crystal clear infinity, but we could make no contact now. Though space's vibrations obediently spread, Aniara's last call in ever-widening rings. Since these and Aniara were concentric, the call simply vanished in the void. Sent in anguish by us in Aniara, our hailing signal just echoed and re-echoed. Aniara, Aniara. The pilots are more resigned than we, being fatalists over the new sort space, creates through the hypnotic power of seemingly unchanging stars, on man's passion for riddles, since death accepted as inevitable fits naturally into their scheme of things. But even so now, in the 6th year of our flight, one can see how even they look down as from a precipice of fear. In their unguarded moments sometimes, able to read their expression, I can see despair shines like the glow of phosphor in their ceaselessly questing eyes. This shows most clearly in the case of the woman pilot. She often sits gazing at the Mima, and then a change comes in her lovely eyes. They become mysterious, the irises full of melancholy fire, a hungry fire seeking fuel to preserve the light of her soul. She told me once, about a year ago, she herself was ready to resign, accept her fate and prepare for death. She suggested we should have a farewell feast, and then just disappear. Many agreed, but the passengers and all the naive immigrants who even now hardly realize their hopeless plight, and the unrelinquishable trust of the leaders in their forward cabin, whose duty is eternally inescapable now. 6. I stopped doing that. 5 was who you got it. We see through the Mima life exists in many different places, though where the Mima cannot show. Pictures appear, fragments of landscapes, and we catch snatches of language spoken somewhere. But where? Our Mima does her best and searches constantly. Her electronic equipment registers, her lenses give their basic report to her selective cells, and they assemble and project what they can, pictures, sounds, and scents in a rich stream, but cannot show where these come from. There is always beyond the scope of the that is always beyond the scope of the powers given to a Mima. To use a metaphor, she gets her fish in other seas than those we are sailing through now, and makes her space catches in the forests and valleys of undiscoverable worlds. I, the Mima robe, look after the Mima, calm the emigrants and liven them up with pictures from far distance of many things no human eye is formed to see. The Mima never lies. Her selective transmitting power they know is incorruptible and cannot lie, and is 3,080 times greater than anything a human being could achieve, if he or she could take the Mima's place. Yet every time I start the Mima, they prostrate themselves as before an altar, and I have often heard them whisper, "Imagine, if only one were like the Mima." It's well the Mima has no feelings and no vanity built into her, but simply goes on as usual, transmitting pictures, sound, and sense, caught up from undiscovered lands, and does this quite impervious to flattery or worship. Unaffectedly aloof, she does not notice how in this dark room, the compartment in which the meme is housed, members of a special cult gather to caress her, stroke her pedestal, beg from her, the noble Mima, a word of comfort or advice about their journey now in its sixth year. Then suddenly I see all's changed. The emigrants have begun at last to understand that what's been has been. Their earlier lives are irrevocably gone, and only world open to us now, this world we journey in with the Mima, that has no landfall and no goal, save death by banishment and endless space. We journey on towards certain death. Even so the Mima still comforts all these souls, preparing them in peace, in resignation for the last hour which comes to every human being, no matter where he or she may find temporary refuge. 7. We still cling to the habits of our time on earth, the customs we followed in the land of Doris. We divide our time in day and night, pretend to see daybreak, twilight, sunset, though space surrounds us with everlasting night, so bitterly cold that those who still live in Doris have never felt its like. Our hearts are synchronous with the clock that follows sunrise, moonrise, and the set of both, as seen from Doris's plains. Now it is the summer night, midsummer night, and the people keep vigil hour by hour, but in the assembly hall all but those who keep watch in infinity are dancing, dancing till the sun goes up on Doris. Then suddenly they know the sun did not go up, that life already that life, already a dream in Doris, is even more a mere dream here, and now the dance hall is filled with sobs and vain hopes no one any longer tries to conceal. Dancing and music cease, the hall is deserted, all throng to our Mima, and for a short time our Mima can ease the pressure of despair, dispel the memories of life on Doris, for the Mima shows glimpses of for the world Mima shows glimpses of can often take the place of the world we remember but have left forever. If this were not so, the Mima could never hold us, and be worshipped as a holy being, nor would the women approach to stroke her pedestal in bliss and trembling. 8. Our souls are wasted by dreams, the ceaseless chafing for lack of reality of dream against dream, and each new dream is a ladder to the next dream-filled air pocket. Everywhere far distant is our home. Our support lies beyond all boundaries. I pour out my need to Doris's valleys, and our perpetual longing to be there is health itself. The art of living here, we seldom think, the art of living here. We seldom think now of our immense proud wonder of a spaceship. Only during funeral speeches do we suddenly realize that this is actually our world. Then many a somber thought swoops below the vaulting of these indifferent rooms, which, filled with the echoes of their own life, glide on forever through unfathomable space. We hurry to the Mima to receive the comfort she can let us see but never reach. So thousands flock in never-ending streams, through every opening to where Mima is housed. Perhaps in a flash we may remember them. Then, the ship's length is 16,000 feet, her breadth 3,000, and the number of passengers aboard her 8,000. That everything was built for emigration on a vast scale. That this ship is only one of many thousands, all of the same construction and size, which ply regularly to Mars and Venus. That we alone have been flung off course until one day the chief star master told us we were in the inner astronomical field no longer, but everything possible would be done to make life in the outer astronomical field a voyage of discovery and a step, the longest so far, towards the next astronomical field. When later it became clear to the leaders that there was no means of return, the inner space and that the laws of out to the inner space and that the laws of outer space were of another kind to those which clearly govern the routine of inner space, there was panic at first, then apathy, which between bouts of desperation spread its frozen insensitivity, its cold doldrum world of lifelessness, until the Mima, like a friend in need, to everyone's relief, threw open her treasury of visions. Certain features have developed in the Mima, of a kind hitherto unknown to human thought, such as, for example, the third Veben? I think I've always said Veben. Veben's function in the focusing apparatus, and the ninth Protator's signal of movement in the phase of unfocused vibration before the selective cells take charge of everything and distribute and assemble it. This is 9. The inventor himself was shattered completely the day he found half the Mima he'd made lay beyond analysis and had been invented in fact by the Mima herself. Bleh. As we all know, he changed his title. He was modest enough to admit once the Mima had taken form, she was superior, and he himself a mere machine minder, a Mimator. He died, but the Mima still lives on. He died, but she developed her own style and carried on the knowledge of herself and of her possibilities and limitations. A telegrater with no conceit, industrious, capable, a patient searcher, unbrightable, clear-sighted, a filter of truth beyond reproach. Who can be surprised then if I, the mechanic, Mima's guardian in Aniara, am moved when I see how men and women fall on their knees in holy faith before her? I pray myself when they pray to Mima that what is happening is true, and that this consolation Mima gives is a glimpse of the light of true consolation, seeking us in this lonely house of space. 10. The empty, sterile universe is terrifying. Its stare concentrated on us, glassy, the imit- immitigable glare of nothingness. Seen through Aniara's rounded crystal windows, the stellar system seems rigid, immobile. So it becomes vital for us to preserve our dream pictures of Doris's valleys, and here in the motionless ocean of space, jealousy preserve every memory, every pulse of feeling. The faintest sigh seems like a balmy wind, all tears are fountains, and the ship herself, a hind leaping forward in silence toward the constellation of the Lyra, whose stars do not seem to move a fraction of an inch either to right or left, and whose distance away is so immense in time and space our minds cannot conceive it. It seems that everything's congealed, fast frozen in mountains of infinity, like specks of diamond dust inside a crystal enfolding eternity in massive halls of endlessness. And all our words, worn out by use and employed to describe mountains, expanses of water, and landscapes to which they were never adequate, have been exhausted by a race which could not foresee a time would come when these words so carelessly squandered would be needed just where they really apply, on this spaceship bound for the Lyra. What, then, is left to us, who need every word we can find to express these boundless reaches of the autumn of space? To comfort ourselves we must seek for other words, for words instead which can reduce and minimize, so the word star becomes obscene, and the slang terms for a woman's paps or vagina respectable. Indecent, too, the brain which caused our deportation into space. I'm gonna do 10 cantos. Ooh. Um, a woman's paps.